Last meeting, we discussed about the cooperative principle by Herbert Paul Grice, or the Grecian cooperative principle. Now I will discuss the four types of implicature and additional information about flouting, violating, infringement, and opting out the maxim. So the idea that people cooperate with each other in conversing is generalized by Grice, 1975. The cooperative principle is based on the assumption that participants in a conversation cooperate with each other and usually attempt to be truthful, informative, relevant, and clear in order to facilitate successful communication. So that is the cooperative principle. We all know that we have four maxims, or the four maxims of speech. So these are maxim of quality, quantity, relation, and manner. Christ identified the cooperative principle as a super principle or a supreme principle that he generalized from four conversational maxims he claimed discourse participants ordinarily follow. Grice identified the maxims as maxim of quality. Try to make your contribution one that is true. Do not say what you believe to be false. Do not say that for which you lack adequate evidence. Say what you believe to be true. The maxim of quantity. Make your contribution as informative as is required for the current purpose of the exchange. Do not make your contribution more informative than is required. Next, the maxim of relation. Be relevant. The maxim of manner. Be perspicuous. Avoid obscurity of expression. Avoid ambiguity. Be brief. Avoid unnecessary prolixity. Be orderly. So those are the four maxims of speech. We have here. Clear fulfillment of these maxims may be demonstrated in the following exchange. Husband, where are the car keys? Wife, they are on the table in the hall. The wife has answered clearly. That is the maxim of manner. And truthfully, the maxim of quality. Has given the right amount of information, the maxim of quantity, and has directly addressed her husband's goal in asking the question, that is the maxim of relation or relevance. She also said precisely what she meant, no more and no less. But Christ knew that people do not always follow these maxims as they communicate. What dull business conversation analysis would be if they did? Rather, interlocutors can fail to fulfill the maxims in a variety of ways, some mundane, some inadvertent, but others lead to what most consider the most powerful aspects of Grice's cooperative principle, the conversational implicature. Now let's have opting out a maxim. A speaker opts out of observing a maxim whenever he indicates unwillingness to cooperate in the way the maxim requires. This happens when a suspect exerts his right to remain silent or when a witness chooses not to impart information that may prove detrimental to the defendant. For example, detective, has the defendant ever told you she hated her father and wanted him dead? Shrink, such information is confidential, and it would be unethical to share it with you. So, opting out a maxim occurs when the speaker cannot reply in a normal way that is expected. Suspending a maxim. Under certain circumstances, as part of certain events. There is no expectation on the part of any participant that one or several maxims should be observed. Such cases include suspending the quality maxim in case of funeral orations and obituaries, when the description of the deceased needs to be praiseworthy and exclude any potentially unfavorable aspect of their life or personality. Poetry suspends the manner maxim, since it does not aim for conciseness, clarity, and lack of ambiguity. In the case of speedy communication via telegrams, emails, notes, the quantity maxim is suspended because such means are functional owing to their brevity. Jokes are not only conventionally untrue, ambiguously, and seemingly incoherent, but are expected to exploit ambiguity, polysemy, and vagueness of meaning, which entails, among other things, suspension of the maxims of quality, quantity, and manner. So we have here the flouting of maxims. Without cooperation, human interaction would be far more difficult and counterproductive. Therefore, the cooperative principle and the Grecian maxims are not specific to conversation but to interaction as a whole. For example, it would not make sense to reply to a question about the weather with an answer about groceries because it would flout the maxim of relation. Likewise, responding to a request for some milk with an entire gallon instead of a glass would flout the maxim of quantity. A. I hear you went to the theater last night. What play did you see? B. Well, I watched a number of people stand on the stage in Elizabethan costumes uttering series of sentences which corresponded closely with the script of Twelfth Night. Here, B's verbose answer, although it doesn't say anything more than I saw a performance of Twelfth Night, invites A to infer that the performers were doing a miserably bad job of acting. However, it is possible to flout a maxim intentionally or unconsciously and therefore convey a different meaning than what is literally spoken. Many times in conversation, this flouting is manipulated by a speaker to produce a negative pragmatic effect, as in with sarcasm or irony. One can flout the maxim of quality to tell a clumsy friend who has just taken a bad fall that her nimble gracefulness is impressive and obviously intend to mean the complete opposite. The Grecian maxims are therefore often purposely flouted by comedians and writers who may hide the complete truth and manipulate their words for the effect of the story and the sake of the reader's experience. For example, we have here, what are you baking? Bithdeycke. By answering obscurely, B conveys to A the implicature that the information is to be kept secret from the young child who is in the room with them. Flouting the maxim of manner is clear. Now let's discuss the concept of implicature. Implicature, a neology by Paul Grice. He was a British language philosopher who made remarkable contributions to the field of pragmatics. His most influential work relates to his analysis of speaker meaning and his account of conversational implicature. His legacy is encapsulated in such widely used phrases as Grecian cooperative principle, Grecian maxims, Grecian intention, and Grecian reasoning. So these are the types of implicature. So we have two, conversational and conventional. Under conversational, we have particularized and generalized. Under generalized, we have indefinite and scalar. Implicature includes two types, conversational implicature and conventional implicature. Conversational implicature implications derive on the basis of conversational principles and assumptions relying on more than the linguistic meaning of words in a sentence. For example, A. Do you like linguistics? B. Well, let's just say I don't jump for joy before class. A asked B about his feelings about the class, and B said B didn't celebrate before the class. We might infer that B has this uninterested feeling about linguistic subject, or he doesn't like linguistic subject. So though the type of conversational implicature, generalized conversational implicature and particularized conversational implicature. Generalized implicature is a conversational implicature that is inferable without reference to a special context. No special knowledge is required to figure out the additional meaning. It means that a generalized conversational implicature is one which does not depend on particular features of the context, but is instead typically associated with the proposition expressed. A. Did you send a message to 2 and 2? B. I sent a message to 2. Example number 2. The leader asks a staff, how do you feel about Nam these days? He usually goes out late at night with someone who has a husband. That's so sad. Do you know who that woman is? Yes, she is my wife. She is his wife. So generalized conversational implicature are inferences that refer to the non-explicit meaning that occurs by default in any other types of context. It is information that is inferred in a prototypical way, as long as there is no specific information that denies or contradicts it. Particularized implicatures occurs when a conversation takes place in a very specific context in which locally recognized inferences are assumed. Example, where's my book? Your young sister is drawing something. The action draw of young sister would ordinarily cannot convey anything about the book, so implicature in this case depends on the context as well as the utterance itself. Particularized conversational implicature is a conversation that has a special meaning which requires a special context in understanding the meaning implied inside. For example, where is my book? Your young sister is drawing something. Yes, the action draw of young sister would ordinarily not convey anything about the book, so implicature in this case depends on the context as well as the utterance itself. Next, scalar implicature. Certain information is always communicated by choosing a word which expresses one value from a scale of value. The basic of scalar implicature is that when any form in a scale is asserted, the negative of all forms higher on the scale is implicated. This is particularly obvious in terms for expressing quantity. For example, the teacher, all of us have flu, so we are absent from school. So it implicates some of us has flu, the other takes care of the illness person. Bill has got some of Chomsky's papers, so Bill hasn't got all of Chomsky's papers because it only implying some, but not all. For example, here, there will be five of us for dinner tonight, so there will be five of them. I like Mary. She is intelligent and good hearted. She likes Mary only because she is intelligent and good hearted. So, scalar implicature is a quantity implicature based on the use of an informationality weak term in implicational scale. Conventional implicature is not based on the cooperative principle or the maxims, not have to occur in conversation, not depend on special context for their interpretation associated with specific words, and result in additional conveyed meanings when those words are used. Some words are expressions for conventional implicature, but A but B will be based on the relationship between A and B and an implicature of contrast between the information in A and B. For example, Mary is crying but she is happy. So we have here Mary is crying is in contrast to she is happy. Even implicature of contrast of contrary to expectation. For example, David even helped the old woman to go home. David is not expected to help the old woman, but he did. Yet, the present situation is expected to be different, perhaps the opposite at a later time. For example, Mom has not gone home yet. Negation of the sentence is Mom went home. So Mom went home is expected to be true later on. So conventional implicature is an implicature that is part of a lexical term or expression agreed meaning rather than derived from principles of language use and not part of the conditions for the truth of the item or expression. So these are that will be all. Thank you for listening.